And I'm delighted to invite Romina as a representative of the SALTO Resource Centre, and she will explain more about the centre, the work, and the connection with community impact.
Thank you very much, Susie. Welcome everyone, both you and also the people in the online environment. Welcome to Vienna. We already said welcome in the morning for the ones that you travel here, but also online. I think Vienna is a nice place to meet and to discuss about community impact, because it's I'm not from Vienna, I'm Romina, from Romania originally, moved in Vienna, and I do believe that Vienna is a good example of how community impact looks like as a city, because it's very social and it involves a lot of social activities. So, hope you enjoy Vienna and hope you will have the chance to visit Vienna soon. Anyway, as Susie presented, I work in a resource center, which is part of a European network. Our resource center is called European Solidarity Core Resource Center. And we are kind of based all over Europe. We have 7 resource centers in different countries. We focus on different elements of the youth programs. So our reason of being as a resource center is to offer support, training tools, resources to people that are implementing the youth programs. And here I refer to national agencies, organizations, youth workers, researchers. So we are kind of a library to offer quality implementation of the youth programs. And we are based in different countries. You can see on the screen and online as well. We have in Estonia an office that deals with participation. We have in Germany one that deals with training and cooperation. We have in Belgium one that works on inclusion. And we have also different region SALTOs that are addressing also countries and organizations outside of the program countries. And we have Euromed, we have South and Caucasus, East Europe. So we try to cover all the elements of the youth programs. Our center, that is based in Vienna, looks at the new program, which is called European Solidarity Core Program, which is not so new anymore. I'm sure you know that. And we are a team of 3. I'm happy to be here together with Georg and Barbara. And we have these 5 strategic dimensions that we want to approach in our work. One is to work on understanding of solidarity. What is solidarity? The big question of what is solidarity. Second is to look at the volunteering. What and how volunteering looks in Europe. The third one is to embed solidarity as a value in all youth programs, and to support the implementation of the program of the Solidarity Core, and also to create and support communities of practices. And one community of practice is, of course, people that are passionate about community impact. What we offer, we have offered this kind of events. We try to be innovative. We try to bring new tools in learning. And we also try to develop new resources like the Community Impact Guide. We are also having an offer of trainings for organizations. So if you are a part of an organization and you want to improve your way of working in Solidarity Core, we have Tosca, the so-called concept of Tosca. A call is open if you want to join in Turkey. Okay, it's online, but it's hosted by the Turkish NA. But anyway, the call is open. We also have we work with mentors a lot, because mentors are an important actor in Solidarity Core program. We will have an event like with mentors in Bucharest. You can also join part of the event online. And we are working on different publications, best practices, and the developing of understanding of solidarity in Europe. Few activities that we do. Please, in order to follow us, also join our Facebook page and also our website. We try to be as much as possible online. As I said, we are a creation connected with the program called European Solidarity Core. We were founded in 2018, in fact, and since 2019 we are kind of providing our services. Because then was the switch from EVS. I don't know how many of you from the online or in the room you worked on the previous European Voluntary Service. What is really clear for us is that the Solidarity Corps is not EVS. I know that some of you might not agree with me, especially the ones that maybe you have more experience in EVS. But for us, Solidarity Corps brings a new dimension to volunteering. It emphasizes even strongly the connection with values, and that's why it's solidarity, and a connection that for us is really strongly meaning the connection with the community. Because as you know, or maybe not, EVS was previously a volunteering program that focused a lot on the learning dimension of the volunteer, which is great, fantastic. But I think that Solidarity Corps is the new version, like the updated version, where next to learning, you have community impact. And yeah, what about Solidarity Corps? It's not EVS, but it's ESC, not officially ESC. And it has 3 different actions. So you can have volunteering projects. If you are a young person or you work with a young person from 18 to 30, you can send that person to have a volunteering experience in another country. It can be individual volunteering or volunteering as in teams. This is one strength of the program. Another strength is the Solidarity Project. If you are part of a young group or you work with young people, you can encourage them to apply for Solidarity Projects. They don't need an organization, and the Solidarity Projects are local initiatives that you can do in your community in order to show solidarity. So this could be really, really local initiatives, and since this year we have humanitarian aid included in the program. More information about the program, we will also provide some links in the chat, and feel free to also send us questions about the program itself. Why community impact? Because community impact is an important element mentioned in the program guide. What is specific in Solidarity Projects volunteering is that you have a host organization that hosts the volunteer, and you also have a supported organization. If you are looking in the program guide of the program, you would see that both in all the roles that you have, you need to involve the community in the volunteering stage. That's the reason also why we looked at the community impact, to see how can we support organizations to provide and to help the young person to have a community impact during his or her volunteering stage. And volunteering projects is about identifying local needs and having an impact at the local level, even if the volunteer comes from another country. Community impact is also an important element in Solidarity Projects. This is text copy-paste from the program guide, which is the kind of the holy book when we do European projects. And the Solidarity Projects need to have an impact on the local community. And you involve young people in order to have a positive change in a local community. So again, local community, again, impact. And that's why we wanted to look at the impact ourselves. And for us, community is the feeling of being together. In the morning, we had a really powerful and thoughtful discussion about what is a community. Maybe I would ask you the same question in online. Do you feel part of a community now that you are part of this discussion? Do you feel us part of the community there? Are we feeling part of the community with the ones online? I don't know. Strange, no? What is a community? But for us, what is a community is the feeling of being together and to create this togetherness feeling. And we have also other elements that what is to be together, to support, to have a voice heard, to offer participation opportunities, to reach out, and have a community impact. So thank you very much. This is us. Susie, any questions?
Thank you, Romina. That's wonderful.
Okay, I don't know how to.
Okay, so hopefully now we have an understanding of the context and the priority and importance of community impact related to the Solidarity Corps. Thank you for the context and explanation. Now I will start to present the practical guide for community impact in learning mobility projects. This is the first time that it has been shown on a European level, so we would like to explain briefly what is inside and ask you to think for yourself. What do I know already? What do I understand? Does it raise questions for me? And perhaps also think about others. Are there people in your work, in your life, in your family, in your community who could maybe benefit from understanding more about the concepts that we talk about? So this practical guide was put together with the support and resources of the SALTO for the European Solidarity Corps. And my name is Susie Nicodemi, and I'm one of the 3 authors that made it happen, together with Alex and Justina. And together we've been working for some time to provide one frame, one way of understanding community impact. The Resource Centre is a member of the European Platform for Learning Mobility. Maybe you've never heard of this, that's okay, doesn't matter. It's a platform of a few different actors that work together to connect research, practice and policy around the needs of young people. So what's happened over the last few years is there has been quite a lot of research, quite a lot of desk mapping and finding out and diving into the topic of community impact. And there was a group of us that said, hey, there's some really cool stuff inside here. There's some, inside this academic language or inside this report over here, there's some really good stuff that would make a difference to practitioners in the field. And what we tried to do was to turn the concepts and the research and the long words into something that was accessible and understandable and easy to touch for practitioners in the field. So this guide is for youth workers, organisers, project managers, volunteers, young people, people that are the ones who create the projects. And we hope that the contents of it will help in the creation of the projects, when applying for funding, to analyse the project and think about how it could be improved and adjusted and changed in the future. So, what we have done, what I'm showing you now are some of the visuals that are created in the guide, okay? So as I'm talking, I'm explaining some of the visuals that are there. And there are 6 separate areas in the visual guide. We try to separate it to make it easy to dive into the particular topic that you have questions about. We have put together, as I said, some suggestions. It doesn't mean that if you have other interpretations that they are not valid. There are many different ways to look at these topics. There's all sorts of research, and this is one frame that is provided, okay? So we have put together these 6 different chapters to explain, right, community impact. Let's break it down. So community, what does community mean? Impact, what exactly is impact? And then how do we experience that thing of community impact? And then, how do you know it's really there? How can you show it, measure it? And how to, examples of what it looks like inside the Solidarity Corps. And some practical tips which come from this app, which is another product of the EPLM, this Quality Mobility app, which has lots of ideas and suggestions of developing learning mobility projects. And these ones in particular are great for diving in and thinking, oh, how could I do more of this in my project? Okay, so here we go. A brief overview of the contents. Let's start. What does community actually mean? Wow, this is a big one, and it means lots of things to lots of people. So, to simplify it and to try to make it in a few pictures and a few ideas to help people have a frame, okay? Can you tell the difference between a social group, an organization, and a community? Have a think. Okay. So, this is our first visual slide of the practical guide, and we have a little community here. Visuals can be interpreted with different connotations in lots of different ways, but personally on here I see a sports field and a factory and a community centre and a wall in between. So this is our little community that we have an example. And in this community, there would be social groups. So these are people who regularly interact with each other. They have mutual expectations, and they do share some aspects of identity. This comes from some research, okay? So this comes from a few different people's research and findings. Then there are organizations. So these are people who share objectives and goals together. But social groups and organizations, in a lot of research, they say, they don't have such a sense of belonging as a community. A community would have a stronger sense of belonging than these two things. And this is what differentiates them. Okay? In the old days, a community was seen, at least my understanding of it, a community was like your local neighborhood. It was like where you lived. It was a geography of where you were. And it could be defined by even like roads and streets and things like this. But as the concept of community has evolved in different research, and as life has evolved as well, community can also be bigger than that. It's not only local, it can also be regional or countrywide or even a European community, right? Lots of countries together. And communities could be defined by other things apart from geography. So if we think about affiliations or part of identity, what makes you you, you could think about the different layers of yourself or the different parts of who you are, different roles. And there can be senses of belonging through ethnicity, religion, sexual orientation, these kind of things. And they would make different communities together. And you can have online blended communities. These are equally valid. As we've seen through the 18 months of COVID connection, online also works. And you can agree and disagree and belong or not belong also online. Okay, what is impact? Do you know the difference between output and impact? Here we go. So, we try to visualize this to make it simple for people to understand. Let's see if it works. So, we have in our community a group of people that want to take action, right? They want to take action, make a change. And if you take action, it generates an output. It changes something. So, an output is the result, which was intended by the project. This is different to impact. So, impact is the effect of the output. Okay? So, it's what changes because something has changed. So, if you have a think, sometimes the phrase, the if-then phrase helps. Okay? So, if in our little community here, if I move the wall and build a path, then something will change, right? If I plant some wildflower seeds, then the flowers will grow and the bees will come, right? Okay, so there's lots of different types of impact, and here we go, have a quick whistle-stop tour through the different types of impact. So we have direct impact for those people directly involved in the project in the action, and it's the ones that are communicating and directly involved. And then we have the second one, indirect impact. So these are the people who didn't take part in it, but they are affected by the results of it. Okay? By what has changed, by the new space or the activities which then come because of it. Then we have two more types of impact. We have intended, as you defined in your objectives. We aim to change this. I intend to change it. But you can also have unintended impact. And it's important to realize when you are assessing your impact and measuring the change of your project that you would have some things you define in the beginning that you want to measure, but leave some space and some thought for what else happens, the unintended stuff. So in our example here, we moved the wall, we built a path, and this meant, intended, that more people can now access the sports centre. And more people go to the community centre. But unintended, a garden is planted. This wasn't foreseen at the beginning, right? Or people start to use the wall in a different way. Or more gaps are made and more people start to cross. Okay? Then we have the positive and negative of the different types of impact. So you can have different consequences of the different impacts that you have. And as much as we try to make a positive change in the community, we want to change something through our projects, through the intended impact of the change. There can also be sometimes in our projects and activities some negative impact which happens. And this also needs to be taken into account, and it can be learned from also. Very often, the negative impact has strong learning points. Okay, how do we experience community impact? Let's have a look. So, different people experience community impact in all sorts of different ways, and there's all sorts of dimensions to it. You have definitely the individual young people that are involved in a project, and you have the competencies that they develop and the things that they change because they are changed, right? So you could have people being sent away on a project, on a volunteering project, or they go abroad, and they come back and they're different people, that something has changed, and because of that, they then make a difference doing something else or something different. And the individual young people are really important. No question. It has been shown in research that very often, most organizations, for them, this is where the impact measurement stops. They look at the development of the young people and the impact on the young people themselves, and then there is so much more. There's so many other elements and dimensions and possibilities of change, not just the individual participants, right? And this is the underlying base of community impact. So there's all the people that the young people, that the participants that they would meet in the hosting community where they go, but there's also the people that send them. There's their family, their friends, their school, the people that they return back to afterwards. And then there's all the systems, right? There's all the policy and the formal education and all the local authority, all the things that could change because of this involvement in the project. And there are, it's not just the micro level at the very small local level. This is a very important level to measure the impact and the change. It's very important. It's also important to consider the meso-level impact, the other people who are maybe not directly involved, a bit wider, and the macro level. So what else changes? So what policies, what systems, structures, these things. Okay, so you have a project, you want to make a change. You decide what you want to change and how it's going to happen, right? You decide what kind of change you want to see after this mobility project. How are you going to measure that? You need to decide the best tool that you would like to use. It could be qualitative, it could be quantitative. There's all sorts of different tools that you could use. Remember, you must use the same tool before, during, and afterwards to be able to compare what your findings are. Okay? And remember, keep a space in your head for the unintended and the intangible. Some things you can't measure. It's quite obvious, but maybe we need to say it. For some people, this is like a click. So the change that you see in the answers you get, this change is the impact that your project had. It's the evidence that you have to prove. Okay. And you can observe what is happening in the community. How was the community at the beginning? How is it at the end? Compare. And you can use descriptions. You don't have to use pivot tables on Excel. You can also use descriptions. And to be honest, personally, I feel that a stronger connection between the practitioners who do international youth projects and solidarity core projects, a stronger connection with research, or to upskill and become stronger researchers themselves, would really help show the importance and the impact that these kind of projects have. For all sorts of reasons, also for recognition and validation and kind of proving to others the importance of these. And to do that, we really encourage everybody to develop their research skills and to become a mini researcher themselves, and make sure that there are some quality elements in the research that you do. So, for example, some tips to be a good researcher would be: have a benchmark starting point, be precise in your scale that you are using, the difference between before and after, as we said, but you are not working in a vacuum, okay? You change the world, and I'm sure everybody changes the world, but you are not the only people that are making a change, and there would be many other influences in the community and in the young people's lives that might have helped make that change. But contributing to the change itself, having a contribution, is already a really positive thing, okay? So you shouldn't really take the credit of the whole thing, but contributing to that is great. Right. So this was a whistle-stop tour of the main frame that we provide in this visual guide for this visual practical guide for the community impact and learning mobility projects. I would like to explain now how to transfer some of this conceptual stuff into your own context and reality, and what can community impact look like, and how can it increase in projects. So these are two more sections that you can dive directly into on the community impact guide. Okay, so because of a Solidarity Core project, these things could change. Now, this is just one brainstorm, it's not everything, but it's something that could help you start to think wider or differently, or consider for yourself in your own reality. So here we go. Some things could change. So these are some possible effects from the different types of formats of the projects. You could change the systems. You could change how processes or procedures work. You could increase participation of young people. You can have more resources and money, which gives more possibility for things to happen. So there could be a system change with your project. You could raise awareness with your project on a specific issue or a need that's in the community. You could have a physical change. So this could be infrastructure, where something is built or changed or improved. Environmentally, for example, it's cleaner, or it's got a nicer color, or it's renovated, these kind of things. And physical change can also be for people. So this could also be health and well-being and how people feel physically. The social capital of the organization could be increased. So this is about connections with others. It's about the trust and the benefit, and this could be inside the group. So this we call bonding, so that the connection, the network is closer connected, or bridging to others, other communities. Bonding and bridging, okay? What other things? There could be competence development for the young people involved. So they have a change in themselves, and because they change, they then make more changes, right? There could be effects on other people in the community. So there could be the participant who's involved, it could be the people connected to them, so their family, their parents, their friends, their school, these kind of things. There could be the staff at the organization, the ones directly involved. Adults are important too, right? It's not just young people. It's also about supporting and developing the capacity of the organizations. Those that are directly involved and those that are not, but they know that the project is happening and they learn from their colleagues. There could be the people that are directly involved or impacted in the project. So it's the partner organizations or other people in the community, or the people, the direct audience that the project is meant for, or the people that bring the food at lunchtime, or who supply the recyclable cups, or these kind of things, right? And then there are those who are directly and indirectly affected by the results of what happens. So if there is an outcome or an output, those are used by others. And there could be people that are just vaguely aware. They see a poster on a lamppost, okay? So the ripples of effects. You get a stone, you throw it in the water, the effects of the impact can go really quite wide. And there are a lot of people that could be connected to this. Then inside the guide, there are some examples of specific Solidarity Corps projects. Romina has introduced the program and what is possible to apply for funding inside it. And there are different types, and inside the guide here, it gives some examples for the particular types of projects. And we talked already about this local solidarity projects, it is really important for the particular volunteers, but then there's other stuff as well. So remember, there's the individuals and more, right? This is the important lesson. Okay, this guide was written in the previous version of the Solidarity Corps, when there were traineeships and jobs were one of the options that could be funded. This is now changed a little bit, although connection, social networking and entrepreneurship and these kind of things are still important in the Solidarity Corps. So there's still some elements here which could be useful, especially if you focus on those kind of topics. Also for team volunteering and for in-country volunteering and international volunteering, there's several elements which you could consider, think about, plan that you intend. You can write in your application form because you've got some good ideas here. And hopefully we will be able to build on this and gather and collect so that more and more people with different experiences can evidence and show the impact and the importance of these kind of projects. We do make a few suggestions in the guide that community impact should also have a quality element to it, and it should be done properly, and it's great if it is, if it's connected to the values and the idea of inclusion and these kind of elements. So this aspect of the guide, it helps to provide a solid frame to give quality and gravitas to the things which are happening. Right, so this was some examples that could help you when delivering particular projects in Solidarity Corps. And now, just to give you a little insight, there are some suggestions of what you can do on the ground in your actual projects when to think more about more and better community impact. So here what we have done is gathered them into 3 areas. There's some ideas on how to increase it and what you can do practically and who else you could include from the community. So, How to increase it? One of the important things is this interconnection where the project happens. So this is about connecting to others and making use of the different spaces and places, making sure there's a balance between the participants of the project and other people from the local place, thinking about the transfer in between. Consider the team that is helping to run the project. Think about the competence that's inside the team, or how those leaders or organizers, project managers, how they could also develop because of the project. And supporting the individual young people, developing their competencies emotionally, socially, yeah, making sure there's a good balance inside. Thinking about intention and planning, making sure that young people's motivations and needs are included in the project, recognizing their views, and making sure they're prepared and understanding that it's the community, making sure that your project has community impact element means that the project will have a connection and impact on others. So maybe they won't always be the main focus in what is happening. There needs to be a bit of brain space for others to be connected and involved. Okay, there's some suggestions about cooperating with other sectors, different organisations, working in partnership, make sure you find a win-win for the people involved, learning and sharing from others, especially outside the youth sector. Maybe there's things that could benefit both sides in approaches and tools and ways of doing things, and strengthening the meaningful relationships and the social capital with other people involved. Inclusion. A really important element of all sorts of stuff, of youth work, of solidarity, and then how to work with community impact, working on inclusion. This takes effort and energy and legwork to reach more people in the community to be involved. It's true, it does. It doesn't just happen with a snap of the finger. So make sure that there's enough resource for that, and there are people who have the ability and competence to do it, and make sure that the project is needs-based as you go through. You adapt it according to the different people's needs so that they feel included. Evaluation. So it's important to include the individual participants and more, right? This is the main message. So think in the evaluation which tool you're going to use and how that is going to happen. And it's not something that only happens at the end of the project. It has to be planned from the beginning and happen during and after, right? Make sure that the achievements are celebrated, not just internally behind closed doors, but with other people, okay? Make it a reaching out process. Public presentations, inviting people, have an event, have a display, have something, share the results, make people see what has happened and what has changed because of your project. Breaking outside the bubble. Okay, so in the same way that we work with young people around their needs, connecting with a community for a project means that you need to have a good relationship and understand other people's needs, and that allow other people to express who they are, what they need, and it might be different to you. So then this needs some mediation and process, okay? Think about the sending community. So this is about after somebody has gone abroad in a project and they come back home, or even after a project has happened and then they move on. What happens afterwards is really important. It's important for young people to have support and a plan and next steps of how they individually will grow and what will change because they have changed, right? Yeah, we kind of covered the sending community a little bit before. Very often the money for a European project is given for a particular activity. But we all know that to make an activity happen, there also needs to be a whole lot of preparation and a whole lot of follow-up. And that needs to happen both in the place where the project happens and elsewhere with all the other players and stakeholders. Okay, and then there's other things that you can do practically. So you can do all sorts of things to make sure your project connects and involves the community. And here's some ideas. I don't know what your favorite would be on here, but I quite like a treasure hunt or a flash mob or something like this. Okay, think not just the program that is run, but also outside the program. You could think about, maybe not during COVID times, but you could think about homestay. You could think about other ways to support the project around the actual program. I'm just going to pause. Is everything okay with the Zoom thing? Yeah, it's all good? Okay, hello people at home, give us a wave. People at home? Yeah, just checking you're still there. Wonderful. And people in the room, give us a wave to the people at home. Hey, right. Okay, we're nearly there, don't worry, we're nearly there. Okay, so, what else can you do practically? You might need to think not only about activities that happen, like we said, a community is not only geographic. You might also want to think about other people in other spaces, or online, or in other systems, like a school, or media, or religious leaders, these kind of things. Other spaces outside of your community centre or where you work. Ooh. Okay, so there's lots of people that can be involved, right? We know this already. So later you can go and you can read this great big long paragraph and you can be inspired by it. And one suggestion that I've heard from a few people is to encourage other people to be connected and to build that kind of social network and social capital. Once you have applied for a European program, you become almost a kind of a wanted person. Like you have a certain level of expertise and competence, and perhaps others could also learn from you in this way. Okay, so that you could be a spreader of opportunities to other people. When you get a European grant to run a project, you spend all the time and you write the application, and then it's assessed and you get the good news and you can run a project and you have some money. Then you have choices. You have choices on where to spend the money, on what kind of thing, who the supplier will be, what kind of space you will use. So this is one tip to think about, like maybe I could do this differently in a different way. Okay, so that was a whistle-stop tour of the practical guide for community impact in learning mobility projects. Thank you so much for all your patience and your resilience in listening. And also thank you to the people at home. I can see you on the screen also, so thank you for the listening. I don't know, what should we do? A round of applause. Thank you so much. Your participation is very much valued, and we stay connected on this topic and keep talking because we need to do more about it, right? Thanks a lot, everybody.